I'm Jana, the little sister.
And I'm Jeff, her big brother. Welcome to Sibling Rivalry, a podcast about our favorite sport, baseball.
This week on Sibling Rivalry Baseball, it's Festivus in September, and it's time for the airing of grievances.
We got a lot of problems with you people. But first, here's some SRBB headlines.
NASCAR has fined Kyle Busch $50,000 after he took out some frustration on traffic cones during the Southern 500 at Darlington Raceway after coming into contact with Austin Dillon's car and then slamming into a wall. Busch drove off towards the garage area. As people scrambled out of his way, the orange cones took a hit. NASCAR deemed his actions a safety and conduct violation.
Former USC Trojan and New England Patriot Sam Bam Cunningham has passed away at 71. Cunningham holds the record for most touchdowns scored in a Rose Bowl game with 4. He accomplished that feat in 1973. He was an All-American and member of the 1972 USC National Championship team. He is widely credited with accelerating the integration of college football in the South. As part of an all-black Trojan backfield, he ran for 135 yards versus the all-white Alabama Crimson Tide. It was the next year Bear Bryant was able to start integrating his Alabama team, a task he had been trying to accomplish for years but was unable to due to local and statewide pushback. Sam's performance had a historic impact on the region and college football. Bam went on to play in the NFL with the New England Patriots. He is still the all-time rushing leader for the Patriots, as well as being a member of their team's Hall of Fame and the 50th anniversary Patriots team. Sam was the older brother of former Philadelphia Eagle quarterback Randall Cunningham.
Trevor Bauer will not be back this season. MLB, MLBPA, and Trevor Bauer have agreed to extend his administrative leave to the end of the season and through the postseason. According to Bauer's agents, he agreed to the leave to minimize the distraction to the Dodgers and his teammates. The LA County District Attorney's Office has not yet made a decision on whether or not to file charges against Bauer. MLB is continuing its investigation.
The Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts, inducted the class of 2021 this last weekend. New members include Chris Bosh, Paul Pierce, Chris Webber, Jay Wright, Rick Adelman, Ben Wallace, and Bill Russell. Russell joins Tommy Heinsohn, Bill Sharman, and Lenny Wilkins as the only two-time inductees as both players and coaches. Russell was the first black head coach in any American professional league. His team won 2 NBA titles in his 3 years as a head coach. You can find these and past week's headlines on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com. Remember to rate and subscribe wherever you listen, and tell a friend to listen to the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast. In the words of Dr. Demento, wind up your radios or your phone or your computers for this week's SRBB podcast. We got lots and lots to talk about. Oops, we Manfreded again, and we got to correct that issue, and we'll do that a little bit later. Right now, though, we want to talk about the Hall of Fame. That the induction ceremony was just last week, and got some new members to the Hall of Fame. So we kind of wanted to reflect. We talked about it last week, who was going in. We kind of wanted to reflect upon the things that we saw, things that happened, and especially point out what happened when Rob Manfred.
So inducted into the Hall of Fame, Larry Walker, Ted Simmons, Marvin Miller, and Derek Jeter. There were a lot of Yankees fans in attendance in Cooperstown. Makes sense with Derek Jeter being inducted. Larry Walker, when he was called back in 2019 that he had been selected, it was his final time on the ballot, didn't think he was going to make it. He was wearing a SpongeBob SquarePants shirt, and a lot of people were like, what is he wearing? He had to have known he was going to get this phone call. he didn't know what the phone call was going to be. He figured, sorry, you didn't make it. But he did make it, and now that shirt is in the Hall of Fame. That SpongeBob SquarePants shirt.
SpongeBob
So I thought that
made
was, yeah. So SpongeBob made it into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And on the day of the induction, of course, Larry Walker was in a nice suit, but he did have a SpongeBob SquarePants pin on his lapel. So I thought that was pretty cool. Kind of shows his character. Of his speech was like the everyman speech. He appealed to everyone. When he got up, he before he even started speaking, he had his cell phone out, taking pictures of the crowd because he wanted to remember it forever. So he had a lot of fun stories about learning how to play baseball in the Expo, like their training league, their minor leagues, because he had played softball and he was a hockey player. He's from Canada.
Right. Canadian,
So,
eh?
yeah, so he had a lot to learn.
So he shows up with the Expos. He's like, "What's this all about? There's no. How come I don't get to carry a stick, eh? Only once or twice in a game do I get to swing a stick around." Okay.
He did have a funny line. He said he's not really on social media a lot, but he did because he knew it was his, last chance to, get into the hall. And he did a hashtag of Fergie needs a friend in reference to Fergie Jenkins, who is the Canadian and was the only Canadian in the Hall of Fame. So after the ceremony, there's now a new hashtag, Fergie has a friend.
You got a friend in me.
Ted Simmons, if you watched, he was very professorial. He was more like the professor. I guess he's kind of like the elder statesman when you think of the time he played. I mean, he played in the early 80s, but he played before that. That was towards the end of his career. But his was more, like, and not a lecture. It wasn't like that, but it was more he had a more something about the air. The air.
Yeah, it's
about
kind of
him.
his look.
Yeah.
His hair isn't as long as it was when he played, but the way it's slicked back, not slicked back, but the way it swept back, and just his look, he does look like a professor. Somebody said that he looked like Frank Lloyd Wright, the architect. Somebody put pictures up like that. He did look like he was more there to give a lecture than to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. You wouldn't have thought he was a catcher for all those years.
No,
Like
not
if you
at
look
all.
at like Johnny Bench, you could see ball player, catcher, Ted Simmons, and a lot of people probably don't even know because he's not been out there like a lot of the other players have been. So if you probably saw him walking down the street, you probably wouldn't even realize, oh, that guy was a Hall of Fame catcher.
Yeah, you wouldn't know. I wouldn't know, if you were just walking like, hey, who is that guy? I don't know. Some guy with long hair.
I don't know. Is there a college nearby?
Right.
That guy looks like he's some kind of a politician or something.
Yeah. They had a really nice tribute to all of the Hall of Famers that we lost over the past year. There were too many that we lost. Bob Gibson, Tommy Lasorda, Tom Seaver, Hank Aaron. I mean, the list goes on far too long, but they had a really nice tribute video to those Hall of Famers that was narrated by another Hall of Famer, Johnny Bench. And so that was really nice. I'm glad they paid tribute to those players and managers.
This was like the most Hall of Famers in like a stretch. I mean, people die every day, obviously, and ball players probably die. We see things pop up. Oh, so-and-so here and there, but as far as like just a run of Hall of Famers in a row.
Yeah. Well, and the amount, yeah, it was, I think, it was 20, I think. So,
Whitey Ford, I think, was another one.
yep, Whitey
as
Ford.
Well.
There's just too many, definitely. But it was nice. It was very nice of the hall to do that. Derek Jeter, he was the last one to speak. I think he was the big draw, obviously, because he has played it probably most recently. And it's just classy. He's very polished, but, he owns a baseball team now. And he said, he always wanted to play shortstop for the Yankees. That was always his goal. And his family helped him in that. They would go to, when they was younger, they would go to the ball field. He would hit, his dad would pitch, his mom and his sister would be out in the outfield shagging balls. Then they'd switch, and his sister played softball. So he was out in the outfield shagging the balls for her. And so it was just a big family affair. And so he had a lot to say about his family. And of course,
there's
the
an
Yankees.
investment that paid off.
Yeah.
An investment in time. There's always those commercials, spend some time with your kids. Well, little did you know, your child probably could have been an MLB, a Hall of Famer, but you didn't go spend any time with them.
That's right. You didn't take them to the park or the ball field and
play catch. Hey, Dad, have a catch.
That's right.
You didn't have a catch with your kid.
Yeah, so it was nice to have the induction ceremony. Obviously, last year's was canceled, so it was nice to see something normal. There was quite a big crowd there, and so it was really nice. And the best part of the whole ceremony was, as they introduce the Hall of Famers that are there, and they set up on the stage. And then one of the last people they introduce is the Commissioner of Baseball, Rob Manfred, and the crowd booed. So that was awesome. It was like the best introduction. I don't think anyone clapped. And if they did, they were drowned out by boos, which were well deserved.
Yes, he has earned that honor. Just like those other guys earned their way into Cooperstown, he earned the boos that he received.
He did.
All right, so we'll watch later this year. We'll be voting again on Hall of Famers for next year's class. Till then, congrats to all of the new inductees. We're speaking of Hall of Famers. We're going to talk about a guy who not only was a Hall of Famer and got into the Hall of Fame faster than others based on what happened to him, but he was also a huge humanitarian, and that would be Roberto Clemente. And if you were watching, yesterday was Roberto Clemente Day all around the league. And this year was a little different than it was last year. Of course, you remember Roberto Clemente died on New Year's Eve, delivering humanitarian relief into the Caribbean, and his plane went down and they never found it. Manny Sanguillen, who was a catcher for the Pirates, actually went out and did some scuba diving out there and had a team to try to find where his airplane was so he could recover his friend, Roberto Clemente. So Roberto wore number 21 when he played. And this year, the Pirates will all wear number 21, or they've been told they can. So I'm pretty sure they will. And then the Puerto Rican players, as Clemente was Puerto Rican, will also have the opportunity to wear number 21. And then there's a cool twist this year in that all of the Roberto Clemente nominees are invited to wear number 21 as well.
And all of the past award winners of the Roberto Clemente Award can also wear number 21.
Right. So that'll include from the Dodgers, Justin Turner. And even though he's a Dodger now, he is a Nationals nominee. Max Scherzer will be, so you could have two 21s on the Dodgers. And then the Angels won't have any 21s because I don't think any of their players now are winners, previous winners. And Mike Trout's out. Mike Trout is this year's nominee from the Angels.
You also have Trey Mancini of the Orioles, Jason Hayward of the Cubs, Joey Votto of the Reds, Miguel Cabrera of the Tigers, Salvador Perez of the Royals, and Nelson Cruz, who's with the Rays now, but he's the Twins representative, and then Pete Alonso of the Mets. The other nice thing that I'm really happy to see, because we talked about this, we felt like, okay, we knew Roberto Clemente Day was coming. It's always been in September, early to mid-September, but we never saw a date. Like last year, it was September 9th. So it's like, okay, it's September 9th. MLB has now officially made September 15th Roberto Clemente Day. They finally have said, okay, September 15th. So now from going forward, we will know and be able to celebrate Roberto Clemente, especially on September 15th.
So it's good, though. No, it's good to have a date. Now, if we could get the pin down when they're going to announce the winners or the winner, that would be real nice.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to do it during the World Series. But again, you never really see that. You know, it's usually a pregame ceremony, and you have to, you know, unless you're, and sometimes they don't show that pregame ceremony, so you don't know. But that's
right, but
when
they
it's
don't even
supposed
seem
to be.
They don't even seem to. Last year, they didn't do it during the World Series.
No, it was after.
But usually you would think while you're watching the game on whatever networks got it, you know, Joe Buck on Fox says before the game, the Roberto Clemente Award. I mean, it's not like it's just some kind of silly little award. It's a big thing, and humanitarianism was big for Roberto Clemente. It's an important thing, and it's good for people to see that these players are out doing things for people. Every time I think about it, I haven't done it yet, but you know, a couple of jerseys to have that whoever you like would be a number 21 jersey for Roberto Clemente, and then of course the number 42 from Brooklyn.
For Jackie.
It's time for Dodger baseball.
All right, it's time, as we've said before, for the Dodgers to show no mercy, put the pedal to the metal. Before we talk about their week, though, a couple things. We got a trivia question answered. Albert did it again. We'll explain that. And this is where we Manfreded up last week. In the intro, we mentioned we were going to check in on the most hated team in America. And then we forgot to tell you who the most hated team in America is. So we apologize for our Manfred up. Oops, we Manfreded again. But as you can probably guess, since we're doing it here, yes, the most hated team in America is
the Dodgers.
I kept hoping you were going to say the Asterix because that's who I think it is. But no, it's the Dodgers. Now, how did they come across this? What was the deal? How did they become the most hated team in America?
So there's a sports betting website, Bet Online, that tracked Twitter data.
So it's scientific.
Yes, because it's Twitter, and they did it for over a month.
Oh,
and
so it was like a really well thought out.
It had a
research.
Hypothesis. Yes. It had
my theorem.
Yes. It was based on geotag, hashtags, and direct keyword associations related to fans' disdain for each of the 30 MLB clubs. The Dodgers were the most hated team in America. According to the data that included over 100,000 different tweets and was broken down by state, the Dodgers were the most hated team in 9 states. The Yankees finished right behind the Dodgers as the most hated team in 8 states. And the Houston Asterix, who were embroiled in the cheating scandal, are loathed by most baseball fans for cheating to win a championship, finished in third with 7 states. But I have a problem with this because where I live, call it the Four Corners area, they said the Dodgers were the most hated in New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and Utah. But I can tell you that there are a lot of Dodger fans in New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado,
It's that
and Utah.
overabundance of Colorado and Diamondback fans
It must be.
that
They
all
have
said
nothing
that.
better to do than be on
You know what
Twitter.
it was? There was one person. That's all the data they had from there. I guess so that success breeds contempt.
It
And
does.
hatred, because that's, you think about it, the two teams are two of the most successful teams in baseball history. The Yankees certainly are. They're number one when it comes to titles and all of that. And then the Dodgers have been pretty successful. They don't have near the titles the Yankees do, but they've been on top. Especially recently, they've been on top for like the last 8 years of the West. They seem to always get the big players. People hate them because they got Mookie Betts. People hate them because they got Max Scherzer, And people think that the Dodgers have bought their success, but most of the players on the Dodgers are homegrown.
Yep, that is so true. And that's one of the things you always hear. In fact, in the series that we'll talk about against St. Louis, one of the announcers from St. Louis said, well, they have, the highest payroll. I wonder what that means. Obviously alluding to, they've bought their success. But when you look at the lineup, the majority of these guys are homegrown, and some of these guys are players that other teams would have never gone after. I don't think they would have gone after Max Muncy or Chris Taylor.
No.
And look at Max Muncy. I mean, he's 32 home runs right now. And
the highest payroll doesn't mean that you went out and bought it. It meant that you paid your players that you developed because you made the investment in them. You're keeping them because they've turned out to be good. And honestly, it could be more because you got guys who are playing for less that aren't free agents yet that are going to be. If they're going to keep Corey Seager, we don't know what's going to happen like with Kershaw. What are they going to do with him? They knew they wanted to keep Mookie. They paid him. They didn't hem and haw around it. They didn't let him go someplace else. They paid him out. So let's take a look at what happened this week. Now that we've admitted our guffaw, our Manfred, they headed to St. Louis for a 4-game set and started out on Labor Day, right?
Yes, Labor Day, and they had a late game in San Francisco because they were on ESPN, Sunday Night Baseball, and then they flew into St. Louis, and they had an afternoon game. With it being Labor Day, people are off wanting to enjoy a afternoon at Busch Stadium. And a lot of people complain, like, who makes this schedule? But for the Dodgers, it seemed to work out because they won this game 5-1. Max Scherzer was on the mound. He actually had flown out the day before so he could get some rest. He's from that area in around Missouri, so around St. Louis. He went 8 innings, gave up 6 hits, and had 13 strikeouts. Did have a 1 run. It was an unearned run. That was some sloppy play, but he looked really good. He was on fire as normal. And then Joe Kelly came in with the save and had 1 strikeout and didn't give up any runs or hits. Looked really good. So yeah, in CT3, Chris Taylor, I mentioned before last week, he had been 0 for, maybe had a hit here or there, but was for the most part, 0 for 4, 0 for 5. He hit a home run to help seal that win for the Dodgers. Next night, bullpen game. Corey Knebel starts out. 1 inning, gives up 2 hits, 1 run. Dodgers end up winning 7-2. Justin Turner had 2 home runs in the game. And the triumphant return of Albert Pujols back to St. Louis. And I thought it was funny because I was listening to the Cardinals broadcast, and they said, wow, Max Muncy, he must be a really nice guy to give up his starting position for Albert. And I thought, well, yeah, he is a nice guy, but it just seemed, just the way they said it was kind of weird. What does that
mean? You know what? Go ahead, Albert. You can take it. I'll set out today.
Yeah.
Like it's his choice.
Right. And we've seen that happen before, and I've never seen Max Muncy. He probably is, depending on what's going on, glad to have the rest, but also he's a fan. He is the first one at the top of the dugout steps to greet Albert Pujols when he comes back into the dugout, especially after this time, because he gets up there first at bat. He had like a 40-second or more standing ovation from the crowd. And Yadier Molina, it's like having his best friend back playing ball. And he hits home run. So,
which is his did it again moment, because when the Angels finally went to St. Louis, his first at bat in St. Louis as an Angel, he hits a home run.
Yeah.
So 679. I was hoping he would hit 680 while he was there.
I was hoping so too. As Joe Davis said, you can't write this stuff. It's not scripted. It just, Albert loves playing in Busch. You can Busch Stadium, and St. Louis loves him. I mean, why wouldn't they? But I know he.
Well, I wonder if he had gone to another team, like a National League team, and had come through the year after he left, the season after he left St. Louis, if he would have gotten the same ovation. Maybe. Because St. Louis fans are some of the best fans. They're the most baseball savvy. You think about it, St. Louis has had other sports. They've had basketball. They've had football. I mean, the Rams were there. That's where the Rams won their Super Bowl, or both of their Super Bowls. They've had teams there, but the only thing that's lasted all the years has been baseball. They had the Browns, which was an American League team way back in the day. And then they had, obviously, the Cardinals. And so they're a great baseball-loving bunch in St. Louis. And I think they appreciate good play more than they want to boo other players.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think so. So they... And I saw that, too, with the broadcasters in some instances, depending. But if it was a good play, they would comment. It wasn't always down, which you see sometimes with other cities. But it was nice to see Albert back in St. Louis. He actually played twice in this series. So the Dodgers win the first 2 games. You think they're on a roll. They're looking good. Next game is another bullpen game. Mitch White comes in. He pitches 5 innings. Dodgers end up losing 5-4. He had 6 strikeouts. He gave up 4 runs. Dodgers did try to come back, but it was just too little, too late. They just couldn't get the ball where it needed to go. And if they pop-ups were just crazy, or they would hit it hard, but it was right at, the outfilders.
It was the St. Louis elder statesman that pretty much controlled this game. Adam Wainwright, who went 8 1/3 innings, gave up 7 hits and all 4 runs, but was pretty dominating. And Yachty hit a home run, was 2 for 3, drove in 2 RBIs and scored 2 runs himself to drive St. Louis.
Yeah, and in the last game, Tony Gonsolin back on the mound. He was going to be limited in his start, how long he was going to go. But he pitched 3 innings. He gave up 3 hits, 1 run, had 2 walks, had 3 strikeouts. The Dodgers ended up losing the game 2-1. But if you look at the big picture, having Tony Gonsolin back on the mound was really good. And especially going in as we're pushing towards the postseason. And I think as he is able to pitch more, those numbers will get better. He's always been one of my favorites, so it was good to see Tony back out on the mound.
Yeah, it was Skip's fault that they lost.
Yeah, Bickford had been really good, and it's not that he's bad. He gave up 1 run, I think, but he's just, he's a little off, and it could be just from overuse. Maybe he needs a break because he has been pitching a lot, and he's been really good. So, he had a little stumble there in St. Louis. The Dodgers end up splitting the series with St. Louis, and then flew home to L.A. to take on the Padres in Chavez Ravine. And we have Julio Urias on the mound Friday night, who has been really good this season, has the most wins of any pitcher in the MLB. Dodgers win this game 3-0. Julio on the mound gets his 17th win of the season, pitches 7 innings, gives up 3 hits, no runs, walked 1, and had 7 strikeouts. Max Muncy, 2-run homer, had 2 RBIs. Kenley Jansen gets his 31st save. And number 9, Gavin Lux, is back from Oklahoma City in left field.
And he got a look from CT3, who was playing center field, after they were both going after a ball. And CT3 knows where he's at. He thinks he's got it. And then, of course, he hears Lux coming. And then Lux hesitates. Lux looked like that. I'm not sure how to play this. He's just learning the job. And so the other guy's like, Chris Taylor's like, okay, well, take it. It's yours. He didn't want to step up and take the guitar solo. Did you ever see Drumline?
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where he does it, and then he chickens out on going up to take the drum solo. So then at the last second, Chris Taylor has to make the play. Luckily he did. But here's what I'm thinking, though. Gavin Lux has still been hitting decently. Is there a way we can figure out a rule so that Gavin Lux hits for Cody Bellinger? Because Cody's been great in the outfield. Defensively, he's still there. Saw him make a couple of good catches in the last few games. And then Gavin Lux will hit for him. Although on Sunday, he did have a couple of good hits. So.
Yeah, he's coming around. Yeah, that would be cool if that would work. You play defense, but I'm gonna be on the offense because Lux at the plate has looked a lot more disciplined. He's not just swinging to swing, which was an issue. He's being a lot more patient. But yeah, he made his debut in left field. I think he played some third base in Oklahoma City, played some outfield in Oklahoma City when he was there, but just not a lot of, he never played there, not a lot of experience. And we're seeing that with Chris Taylor. There was another incident later, I think, with Cody Bellinger. And it's the same thing. But if you remember when Corey Seager was out and he was playing shortstop, which is his natural position, he was doing the same thing with, these pop-ups. AJ Pollock, I think, was one where he came in, he had it and had called for it, but Lux has got like headphones on or something and he's not paying attention. So, yeah, he's a work in progress, but he's looked really good at the plate.
Yeah, he does seem to be like deaf when he's out there.
Yeah.
Like, I can't hear you. La, 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 la. I'm playing shortstop. I'm the only player on the field. I'll catch everything.
That's right. Yeah. So Dodgers, like I said, end up winning the first game 3-0. Second game, Walker Buehler's on the mound. He goes 7 innings, gives up 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, does give up a home run. The Dodgers do pull out the win. They win 5-4. Mookie Betts, 2 for 3, 4 RBIs, had a 3-run home run. Really nice to see. And then Kenley Jansen had his 32nd save of the season in that game. But talking about Gavin Lux, he was 2 for 2. He had an RBI and a double in that game. And the other thing that you didn't see before he went to Oklahoma City was the patience, as I mentioned. He wasn't getting a lot of walks, and with him being more patient in the box, you're seeing he's getting on base, even if it's a walk, and he's got speed on the base pads, so that really helps the Dodgers too.
When his head's in the game, he can be pretty good, but
yeah,
it doesn't seem like it's in the game that much. That game too, the damage done by the 2 big stars on the Padres, it was Machado and Tatis. Both were 3 for 4. That home run you mentioned was Tatis's. He had 3 RBIs. Machado had 1 RBI in that game.
Yeah, and they were pretty much it for the Padres. So,
yeah.
And the thing about Manny Machado, Hardy boos every time he comes up to bat, which he deserves, I think. He played for the Dodgers. Yes, he was a rental, and he acted like a rental, a lemon, because he didn't hustle. He didn't do anything. And now when he plays against the Dodgers, it's like he's, has to show, well, this is who I really am. But he's still going to get booed. No one's going to say, oh, this is how you really are as a player. They're going to think,
he still shows laziness sometimes.
Yeah, he does.
But not as much as it seemed like. I don't even think he showed it that much here. It was that one stupid remark. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, people remember that. Well, and he was the last out in the World Series, the tainted World Series. But, yeah, but he and Tatis were having themselves a game. That gets us to Sunday, and we always have Kershaw Day. We haven't had Kershaw Day in a while for the last 2 months, but now we need to have Scherzer Day. And
I think we should call it For Scherzer Day, because it seems like when he goes out to pitch, since he's been here, it's for sure they're going to get a victory.
Yeah, he's just been on fire, and Sunday was no exception. One of the things, he was at 2,995 strikeouts over his career. And a lot of people that went to the game already knew that, he's on the mound. He can get to that 3,000 strikeouts and be in that exclusive club. And if they didn't know, they soon found out. His family was there in attendance, and it was kind of funny to watch the Padres. Max Scherzer he's very Mad Max. It's the name is very fitting. He's there to do a job. Doesn't like to be touched. Don't talk to him. Focused. He knows what he's going to do. And obviously he knew that this was, they know their stats.
Well, yeah, he knew that was coming up, that he needed 6 strikeouts to to reach the 3,000 mark. But that seemed to be that seemed to be something that he was going to get anyway.
Oh yeah.
And I think the crowd already knew. It was just it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. And on the road to that, he set himself up for like maybe 2 or 3 other things, because it took him till the 5th inning to get to that milestone. But on the way, he struck out 3 hitters on 9 pitches.
Yes, an immaculate inning in the second inning,
which was the heart of their order. He struck out Tatis, he struck out Hosmer, and then he struck out Tommy Pham.
This is his 3rd career immaculate inning. He is tied with Chris Sale and Sandy Koufax for that. And you could tell Mookie Betts said it was interesting to watch the hitters. They were swinging early because they didn't want to be number 3,000, because that name goes in the books.
And now there's the trivia answer to the question. The question is, who was Max Scherzer's 3,000th strikeout? And the answer is
Eric Hosmer.
Yes, it is. Now, Eric Hosmer plays big in this game as well. So he's the 3,000th strikeout. We're into the 8th inning when they start flashing things and MLB starts sending out messages that there is a perfect game in the works. They even had it on the screen on Spectrum Sportsnet, and I'm like, take it off. I saw what was happening. Don't say anything.
And people in the stadium knew. I mean, you're a baseball fan, you know what's going on. You don't talk about it.
And so this day for Scherzer, he's thrown 7 perfect innings. Nobody's gotten on base. He's broken, or he becomes the 19th member of the 3,000 strikeout club, and did it in fewer innings than anybody previously. And then he's got this perfect game going, an immaculate inning. But after striking out twice, Eric Hosmer comes to the plate again in the 8th and doubles.
Breaks up the no-hitter. And I don't blame Eric Hosmer. I blame all MLB,
whoever the producers are that put
Joe
the
Davis,
graphics up.
Oral Hershiser. I don't know if Oral Hershiser really said, because he was a pitcher and he knows.
As a player.
Knows. But I mean, it could have been, and that's the funny thing too, is, going back, he had this, I mean, it was an awesome day. He had 9 strikeouts, shut the Padres down. But yeah, I mean, how awesome would that have been? Mr. 3000 joins the 3,000 strikeout club, has a perfect game with an immaculate inning, and they screwed up because they have to send out their alerts.
So he doesn't get that, but he has a great game. Who came in there after him? What, Joe Kelly?
Yeah.
Or no, Justin Brule.
Yes, Justin Brule
came in and closed it out. And then and the Dodgers take it 8-0 thanks to solo home runs from Corey Seager, Mookie Betts, and a 3-run shot by Justin Turner. Max Muncy also contributed with 2 RBIs. From the Padres side of it, Blake Snell was a starter, but he was only in for 2/3 of an inning.
Yeah, so coming into this game, Snell has looked really good on the mound, has regained his form, has been really good for the Padres, but he ends up only pitching 2/3 of an inning, and he comes off the mound. I think he was pitching to Trey Turner, so it's, like the third batter. And previously he got the 2 outs and comes off the mound and is holding like his inner thigh and is like, nope, I can't go. I can't do it anymore. And it's almost as if this is something maybe he's dealt with before, but we have been told that he has an adductor strain or a tightness in the adductor. Adductor. I don't know.
What is an abductor? What is that? I don't.
Well, it's It's ADDUCTOR. Adductor. So it's a muscle on near your. It's like kind of in your thigh area, in your inner thigh, and yeah. So he was like, nope. He even looked at the dugout, shook his finger, like, nope. I can't do it today. So after that, it was a bullpen game for the Padres. But that's it. He's not on the 10-day IL as of now. They've just got him listed as day-to-day. We'll see what happens there because he's been a bright spot. And the other thing is we got to root for the Padres because they're playing the Giants.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about the anybody who's playing the Giants now, we have to root for.
Yes.
Even if it's the Asterix, which we know they don't play them now, but even if it was them, we'd have to root for them. Yep.
That's right.
In that last game, also, we were introduced to Austin Adams. Now, he's pitched against us before, but in this game, he had some control issues, especially against the right-handers, and hit 3 batters in an inning.
And he almost hit Trey Turner in the head, but he's fast, so he, could get down on the ground before. I think it's his slider. And Ostanola, the catcher for the Padres, said, yeah, that slider, it's a good pitch, but sometimes it just has too much on it. And I'm like,
it didn't look like it had anything on it because it
no.
didn't slide.
It didn't slide.
That's why it hit the right-handers. It was a great against the left-handers, but not very good against the right-handers. So he ended up hitting Will Smith, Gavin Lux, and Mookie Betts. And that drove in a run.
Yeah.
Because he hit somebody with the bases loaded. He didn't have a really good day.
Well, and I think in his previous, when he's come into games, he's had 11 games where he's hit 11 batters. So
he tied in the game with those 3 hit by pitch. He tied the season record for most hit by pitch in a season. He had 23 and the season's not over yet. So he still has time.
And I think he will make it. I think he could be the king. And that's the other thing is a lot of the players too, the Dodgers are like, we know that he's not purposely hitting, trying to hit us. He's just, it's just not working for him.
No, you're right. It didn't seem, you knew he wasn't, but on a couple of those, it just looked like he threw right at him.
Right. Yeah.
And I think there was no slide.
Yeah. And the crowd obviously are going to show their displeasure in the whole thing because, it was really, it's crazy. It's like, 1 pitch hit. Okay. Next batter hit. So you start thinking, okay, what's going on here? But yeah, no, he's just, his command is out of control. For injuries with the Dodgers, I'm not sure if this goes back to the incident with Gavin Lux in left field and Chris Taylor playing center field, but Chris Taylor is day-to-day. He has a strained neck, so we'll keep an eye on that. AJ Pollock still on the IL, but is doing baseball activities, as they mentioned. So he looks like he might be back maybe sooner than later. We're hoping sooner. Danny Duffy, we're hoping he would be back in to pitch out of the bullpen, but he suffered a setback during his bullpen session, so he most likely is out for the season. So we will never see him probably pitch as a Dodger. And Billy McKinney is on the 10-day IL with a hip impingement. And then they did call up Steven Sousa Jr., who played in the series against the Cardinals, a little bit in the series against San Diego. He was DFA'd, make room for Clayton Kershaw's return to the roster. So he'll probably end up back in Oklahoma City. Really loves playing with the Dodgers organization. So I think he'll pretty much do whatever he needs to do to stay with the Dodgers.
Okay, so we're in that spot. Everything is must win for the Dodgers if they wanted to have a chance to win the West again. They're locked in as the wild card. The first, nobody's going to get to them at this point. They're like 14 or 15 games up in the wild card standings. Second best record in baseball. Their problem is the Giants just don't lose. And when they do lose, so do the Dodgers. So they never pick up any ground.
Which kind
about
of
2.5 games out right now, right?
Yeah, 2.5 games, which is kind of funny because you don't want the Dodgers to lose because then it, puts them back. So, but if the Giants lose, like you mentioned, the Dodgers seem to lose. So it's kind of a trade-off. You want the Dodgers to continue winning. You want the Giants to lose, but you want the Dodgers to win too. So what do?
You root for the Dodgers to win.
Always.
Never lose.
That's
Never
right.
lose.
Never lose.
All right. So they've got a good series here. While the Giants are going to be taking on the Padres, which hopefully will be a big competitive series, and the Giants will drop some of those. Although we can't say that's going to happen because the Dodgers just swept the Padres. And the Padres just aren't looking like the team we thought they were going to be, or they were at one point during the season. But they've got Arizona to start off the week, and then they're going to hop on a jet plane from LA International Airport or wherever they fly out of, and head to Cincinnati to take on the Reds, a team that is in the mix for the second wild card. I think tied or within half a game or something of the Padres. So they're both fighting back and forth. So the Reds are not going to be just a rollover team. They're going to be in there trying to secure their playoff spot while the Dodgers are trying to win a division. So this should be a tough but a good matchup. And with that, it's Player of the Week time.
Yeah, so my Player of the Week is someone who is been a Player of the Week before and usually hits at the top of the lineup, but Dave Roberts been doing some experimenting, but he has learned the error of his ways, and he is back at the top of the lineup, and that is Mookie Betts. He was 8 for 19, 7 RBIs, 2 home runs, hit 421 over the 2 series. So good to see Mookie back in form.
What I think is interesting with Mookie is that he did all that, but it wasn't like last year where all eyes were on him. He did it kind of quietly. He contributed, but Max Scherzer's pursuits have overshadowed. All the pitching has overshadowed. Some of the games, certain things that have happened, he's been the star of the game, but there's other storylines that seem to overshadow his performance, and I think he's okay with that.
I think so too. I think he is a guy, loves the game, and just goes out to play to the best of his ability in every game. And he was an amazing ball player. He played at second, I think, in St. Louis. Of course, he plays. He's played center. He's played right field. So you can slot him in different spots, but I am so glad he is back at the top of the lineup.
Yes, that was good. I'll tell you right now, I went the easy way, but I think fully deserving. I went with Max Scherzer, not because he got his 3,000th, but because in 2 outings he threw 16 innings, gave up 7 hits, no earned runs. He gave up 1 unearned run, so he had a 0 ERA for the week. 22 strikeouts, held the the opposition to 127 batting average. 70% of his pitches were strikes. 21% of them were swinging. And 60% of his pitches that were hit were ground balls. So it makes it more playable. He puts his defense to work, but that's how he ends up with the numbers that he has. Well, as people would say, when you say the same thing over and over again, you sound like a broken record. Well, that would be what talking about the Angels is like, kind of like a broken record. They had a standard week for them. Recently they've been losing more in the week than winning. So before they would be breaking even, or maybe they'd win more, be like 4-3 on a week or 3-3. Then they got more where they're 3-4 or 2-4. Well, this week was kind of like that. They had one pretty incredible win, and then the rest of it was just standard Angels. Now, before we get too deep into this, I have to say something about something that happened that has nothing to do at all with baseball. But the USC Trojans football program is now going to get a new head coach because they finally fired Clay Helton, who's been an albatross around the neck of this program for a while. And I just needed to get that out. Clay Helton's gone. Hallelujah. I hear the hallelujah chorus whenever I read that he had been fired. So that's it. Now the Angels had two series, one with San Diego and one with Houston, both away. And we just finished talking about Blake Snell. Well, this one happened the series before the Dodgers saw him. And Blake Snell in game one pitched 6 perfect innings. And then in the seventh, he blew his perfect game, but had kept a no-hitter going because he walked David Fletcher. And then David Fletcher moved to second on a fielder's choice. He stole third base. And then Snell walked Jack Mayfield. So Captain Jack's on base. Captain Jack steals second. Joe, I'm getting better at this. I'm figuring out how to play this game. Adele comes up and singles to the gap to blow open the no-hitter. Scores 2 runs. So there's no shutout. There's no no-hitter. And then there's really no Blake Snell because they took him out shortly thereafter.
They did. And I was not watching the game at the time, but I got the alert on my phone. I turned on the game to root for the Angels, of course, and saw the single by Joe Adele. Super excited for him. He was pumped. And of course, the Angels, they went on to shut out the Padres and win 4-0.
And Packy Naughton, who was being overlooked, was really should have gotten more credit. If he didn't, I didn't hear a lot of people talking because he had shut down the Padres as well. They had 2 hits.
2 hits. I think
they had 4 total hits in the game, but
yep. Packy Naughton went 5 innings and gave up 2 hits, but no runs, had 5 strikeouts. So he really got, things started moving in the right direction. And of course, Joe Adele helped with that 2-run single. So that was a really exciting game for the Angels and for all of baseball, if you are not a Tricks fan.
Adele had 3 total RBIs, which included a home run later in the game given up by Pagan. And then pretty good, 4 runs on 5 hits. So they once they got the chance, they put it together. Snell did go 7 innings with the 1 hit, the 2 runs, and 11 strikeouts. The next day, things weren't as good for the Angels. They had a pretty terrible second inning where 8 runs were allowed to score in that inning. The Padres had 3 hits, 1 double, 2 singles, and then it was Myers and Selman who really gave up, and then who created this, let it get started, and Petrichka came in with inherited 3 runners. All 3 of those runners scored because I don't know. How about 3 bases loaded walks in that inning and a wild pitch?
Not going to win that way. That's for sure.
It was 8-0 at that point. Now the Angels did come back to lose this 8-5. They did score the 5 runs between the 4th, the 7th, and the 8th. Brandon Walsh with a triple. Juan Lagares and Joe Adell both hit home runs. They threw 7 pitchers out there, and the final 4 from the bullpen didn't give up a single run. Yu Darvish went 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, and then it was Dinelson Lamet that gave up the other runs, or a couple of the other runs, and then or the last 2 runs, yeah, and then they had to bring in Psycho Killer himself, Mark Melanson, to finish this out, and he shut him down for his MLB leading 37th save.
Yeah,
and that wrapped up
weird.
the season series between the two, which they split because it was only 4 games that they played each other, and the Angels won 1 in each series, as did the Padres, which then got them on their ponies. Oh, they attached on their wings, and like angels in the outfield, everybody got them flapping, and they took off and flew to Houston, take on the Asterix, and which would see Shohei Ohtani back on the mound again, but not for long. Another not great outing for Shohei. Shohei's kind of feels like he's been slumping, and I wonder if he's just a little tired because he's never played this much before. They
It could
took
be
all the restrictions off of him. He is no longer the home run leader in the MLB. He's close, but he's lost that lead. He's just not. He did hit number 44 in game 1, but he's been sitting there ever since. He only threw 3 1/3 innings, gave up 9 hits and 6 runs. And in that 10-5 loss, Altuve, Bregman, and Correa, the Trinity of evil, the cheating Trinity.
I like that Trinity of evil.
Each had 3 hits each. Bregman with 4 RBIs. They scored 10 runs, no home runs, which is always a big thing when you see that. Framber Valdez, who has been reestablishing himself as he started off last year, and then after some time on the IL this year, he's come back. He's pitched pretty decently for him. He's definitely helping them be in the lead of the AL West. So not much to think about. They did score 5, which meant they fought back. But at this point, hopefully this, we always say this maybe looks good for the future, but we still have to finish this season. Things can still happen. Then we got to go through the off season. We don't know what will happen then. And some of these guys may not even still be around after the off season. They might get traded. They might get released, non-tendered. And then spring training. One of these players come in, have a really bad spring, and not be with the big team. So even though they're doing good now, there's too much that could happen. There, one guy who does hope to be part of the mix next year is Luis Rengifo, who in the game 2, 3 RBIs, a home run in their 4-2 win. And those same 3 guys who the night before were the Trinity of Evil, 0 for 5, 0 for 3, and 0 for 4. The 0 for crew, the 0 for Trinity, without Altuve being 0 for 5. It was Kyle Tucker, who is an associate evil. He's an evil apprentice since he wasn't there when all this happened. He's 2 for 4. And then the other big thing, pitching wise, Jose Suarez, 5 2/3, gave up 3 hits, 1 run. And 7 Ks. He set everything up. They finished it off with Raisel Iglesias' 31st save of the season. Game 3, kind of back to where we were. Ryan Presley of the Asterix picked up his 24th save as the Angels go down 3-1. Juan Lagares had a home run, so that was the one run. There was 4 total team hits, so not a lot of offense. Jaime Barria, again, looking pretty decent. 4 hits, 1 run, 6 Ks. It was Quijada who gave up 2 of the 3 runs. And then Kyle Tucker again, 2-run homer, and our buddy Yuli Gurriel with the hair, 4 for 4 with an RBI. So another one who is part of that evil, the conglomerate of evil. He was part of that 2017 team as well. So, like I said, pretty standard week. They got a couple of wins, and one of them was a great win in coming back and spoiling the no-hitter and that. I mean, Snell had already blown his own perfecto, but other than that, I guess wait till next year.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, even Mike Trout, he still is hoping to be able to play, maybe at least a couple of games before the season ends. But he's still not doing full baseball activities. It's very possible that he is not going to be playing for this season. We're not going to see him play. He's been out since May. So I think a lot of people have just I'm not saying they've forgotten about Mike Trout, but why wouldn't they? Because he hasn't been there.
The time off that he's had in the last couple of seasons, it's really diminished the effect of his numbers, what he's done. I saw a thing on MLB, somebody, I think Kiermaier out of Tampa Bay, made this catch against a wall, went way up high over the wall, and caught the ball, kind of like Mike Trout in Baltimore quite a few years ago. That was everybody was amazed by it. Now a lot of people are doing it. Mike Trout did things that nobody else was doing at the time. Now other people are getting there, and it happens. People get better. They see that. They train for those things. But at one time, Mike Trout's numbers look like Mickey Mantle. That was a good comparison for him. Now his numbers overall are beginning to look like Dave Kingman. And Dave Kingman was a solid player, but he was a journeyman. He wasn't an MVP candidate. He hit the ball hard, but his numbers are dropping because he's not playing. And he had started off really well this year. We don't know where he would have gone with this, even how the Angels would have looked, but he's really starting to just look like any other old player. And it's mostly because he's just not playing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Hopefully he can get healthy. Like I said, I don't think he's going to play, even if he plays 2 games. Is it worth it? No. Get him healthy, get him into spring training, and hopefully he has a really good year. But, he just turned 30. Is he 30 now? So,
right. Let him continue to rehab, no playing, and then come back in next season strong and ready to go. I think that for some players, and I think for a lot of people, we get something in our head that this is the reason why. It's easy for people now to just say the reason that something's wrong or they didn't do something or they're out of something is COVID. And I understand that that's true, but it can't be the excuse for everything. But there's a lot of guys this year who haven't been able to play or have been having nagging injuries all season long that aren't normal injuries. The obliques, the trapezius thing we had the other day, but a lot of what do they call the soft tissue that they're pointing back to the weird season last year. So why is this happening? COVID. So let it Let it pass. We know how to play in COVID times now. We'll be a little farther away unless something happens that causes a new variant to come out and just kill us all, then it won't matter anymore. But let him go and do that and come back next season from the beginning like it was supposed to be. Nobody making any COVID excuses about anything. Just come out and play and let's go. And if he can't make it, let him go. Let him go somewhere else where maybe he can finish up his career with a team that he might be able to finally play in the playoffs. But maybe he's not meant to ever play in the playoffs. I don't know. All right.
Well, that brings up a good point is watch MLB. Try not to watch it when Harold Reynolds is on there. But he is, Harold Reynolds was a ball player. I think his batting average lifetime was 258. He was not a pitcher. He wasn't
mostly a second baseman.
Right. Okay.
He was solid enough. He was consistent enough.
It's consistent enough, but not somebody you're going to remember. And only reason that you know his name for the most part is going to be because he got a job with MLB Network.
Right. If you ask most people, most casual fans, if they know Harold Reynolds, they might say yes. If you say, well, do you remember where he played? They probably don't know.
No. But he has this thing where he loves Shohei Ohtani, and he'll say, I love him. He's great. He is the face of baseball. It's what baseball needs. But as far as Shohei Ohtani being an MVP, the AL MVP, he doesn't think he should be the MVP because he's not on a team that is in playoff contention, that's going to go to the postseason. And that's not when I think of the MVP, because you can be an MVP in the postseason. But over the 162, what did you do as a player? Shohei Ohtani is MVP.
Yeah, especially for the fact that he's not just doing it on one side of the ball. He's doing it on both. He's had bad days just like every other player does. And he's still performed at a level well beyond most other players.
Yeah, the two-way with him, even on the day when he pitched against Houston and he only went 3 1/3 innings, he still hit his 44th home run.
Right, so right there, Shohei Ohtani plays two positions, or it hits and pitches. As a pitcher, he's got 44 home runs this season. Harold Reynolds hit 21 home runs in his whole career, 12 years to hit 21 home runs. And Shohei has already hit that plus 23 more. He could have spotted Harold 21 home runs and he'd still beat him by more than double.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things I turn it on, see what's going on, and he might be on there. And it's not just Shohei Ohtani. There's other, he would say the same thing about, Mike Trout or,
he has.
And he
has said about Mike Trout, how can he be when he plays for a losing team?
Right. And that's, and I just think that Harold Reynolds maybe should look in the mirror and say, you know what? You're an analyst now. Nobody knows who you are.
Shut the Manfred up.
That's right. And just talk baseball. But when it comes to MVP, I know you weren't one, but
never even a candidate.
No, not even a candidate. So just, let them play. Let the kids play.
Shohei has 70 more home runs over his career. He's got 91. And Harold Reynolds has 21.
Yeah, this is no comparison. So,
well, I think he's also said he thinks Shohei should just play, just hit.
Right. He should just do one or the other. Can't do both. And to me, it just seems someone is a little green with envy.
All right. The Angels hike up to Guaranteed Rate Field.
You mean Kaminsky? Yeah.
New Comiskey Park for a set versus the White Sox. Remember, they started off the season against the White Sox, and then and they'll go there. They can play spoiler for the next team, which is the A's, who really are fading. I don't think they need any help. The A's and the Mariners have both been tied, and they're both in about the same spot in the wild card, which we'll talk more about in around the league, because the wild card's been dropped on its ear. So anyway, they're going to be doing that. They've got Oakland at home, and then up in Chicago for the games there. So let's take a look at this week's Player of the Week. Who you got?
I got Jared Walsh. That's who I went with. I like Jared. 5 for 15, 2 doubles, home run, 2 RBIs, 333 batting average. I mean, he is a bright spot. I thought about Joe Adele just because he broke up the no-hitter, Snell's no-hitter. But I think you picked him one week. I picked him, I think, the next week, or vice versa. So I went with Jared Walsh for my Player of the Week.
I wasn't going to go with Joe, even though I saw what he did, because it's like, hey, he's done it. Now I need to see consistency. He has done, some good stuff, and a couple different home runs in there. Walsh is a good one because you see his name in almost every game, and that's more what I try to see. Somebody's contributing more often than not. Not 2 games and then I don't see him again for a couple of weeks, which brought me to my Player of the Week, which was Luis Rengifo. He hit 308 over the week. He only played in 4 games because he got called up right there for San Diego. Hit 2 home runs, drove in 4, and 1 sacrifice hit. So I think he came in and is trying to make the most of his opportunity. As I've mentioned it before, the Fleetwood Mac song World Turnin' always pops in my head, or most often pops in my head when we get into Around the League. And this time the world really was turning. It's spinning fast. Lots changing around the league. And like I said, the wild card race has been dropped on its head and spun around a few times. Did you ever play that game? You probably did. I'm sure we probably did at the same time, where you put your head on like a bat and you spin around 3 or 4, like at birthday parties or something. 3 or 4 times.
And you try to run.
And then you gotta try to run, and what they don't tell you is that you're heading towards a block wall. You're gonna be like Wile E. Coyote smashing into it, or it'd be okay if you had hit the pool, but you got to negotiate patio furniture first or something. Well, that's kind of what's going on in the wild card race. But before we talk about that, let's get to this week's Players of the Week. One of them sounds kind of familiar.
Very familiar. He was also your Player of the Week for the Dodgers. That is Max Scherzer for the National League. He continues to dominate for the Dodgers. He struck out 22 batters, no walks across 2 starts. He capped it off with, of course, some history. Became the 19th pitcher to record 3,000 strikeouts. He has gone 6-0 in his 8 starts with an .88 ERA, a 155 opponent's batting average, and a 72-5 strikeout to walk ratio through 51 innings. He hasn't allowed an earned run in his past 29 2/3 innings pitched. And this is the 6th time that Max Scherzer has earned Player of the Week honors in his career. And then we turn to the AL, and we go back to a familiar city, Kansas City, and Andrew Benintendi.
Kansas City.
Batted.
Kansas City, here I come.
500.
Which again, I'm trying to give you a soundtrack for the Kansas City.
Andrew Benintendi of the Kansas City Royals batted 500 and drove in an MLB best 14 runs during his 7-game week. That was highlighted by his 2-homer, RBI performance during a Royals 6-4 victory in Minnesota. It was the second time in 3 days that Benintendi had driven in 5 runs in a game. And he is, as I said, the second Royal to earn Player of the Week recognition this season. We just had Player of the Week with Salvador Perez. So congratulations,
here I come.
Max and Andrew.
They got some Players of the Week there, and I'm gonna watch me some. Everything's modern in Kansas City, by the way, if you hadn't heard.
Oh, no.
You hadn't heard that?
No.
Well, that's what, when they came back to the outskirts of wherever they lived out in the country of Oklahoma, where the wind goes, whatever, blowing down the plains, sweeping down the plains. See, you know that part. Everything's up to date in Kansas City. You don't remember that song? Go watch Oklahoma.
I guess I'm going to have to.
You're the Okie.
Well,
between the two of us, you
yeah, that's true.
I mean, we both have Oklahoma roots thanks to both of our mother's parents. Mm. But that could also be said about Illinois, both due to both of our father's parents. And our dad was born in Illinois. Our mom was born in Kansas, not close to Kansas City, but closer than we were born to Kansas City. So she would also know that if I went to her and said everything's up to date in Kansas City,
she would know.
She'd probably start singing it.
She would. That would definitely be true. I didn't know. I learned something every day.
That's something you should have learned many, many days ago. You shouldn't have been today's years old.
It was maybe in my file cabinet, and I just hadn't looked at that file in a while.
On a crumpled paper.
That's right.
I didn't pay attention to that part of the movie because they weren't talking about Oklahoma. Oklahoma.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. See, I gotta go back and watch it too because I'm forgetting those things. Another no-hitter. This time combined in Milwaukee. Corbin Burnes, Josh Hader combined to throw a no-hitter.
It was against the Cleveland Indians.
I'm sure they'll be ready to be the Guardians, so that way it'll say, now that happened to the Indians. We don't know what. We didn't get no hit. We're the Guardians.
Yeah, we don't know. That's not part of our history.
So Burnes went 8 2/3. Hader came in and finished it up with the last inning and a third. Burnes told MLB TV that it's a pretty special team they have there, and what we've done to this point is impressive, and it's only going to get better the rest of the season and the postseason. And then also, since we're in Milwaukee, they haven't technically clinched, but they're going to take the NL Central, as we've been saying quite a bit over the last few weeks. Ryan Braun has decided to retire after 14 seasons. Gave it the whole summer to see whether the urge to continue playing baseball met with the opportunity with the Brewers. But he finally said what he didn't want to say. I'm done. And he retired. 352 career home runs. He's the all-time leader for the Brewers. 6-time All-Star, 2007 Rookie of the Year, and of course the MVP of the 2011.
Well, let's look at a weekend series between the Mets and the Yankees. On Saturday was the 20th, I don't know how you want to say, 20 years since 9/11.
Remembrance.
Yes, the remembrance, the commemoration. And the Yankees and the Mets had a Subway Series. And on Saturday, they had Joe Torre and Bobby Valentine out to throw first pitches. They were the managers when the Yankees and the Mets came back to play after 9/11. And so it was a really moving ceremony, just meant a lot because for the city of New York. But what was interesting to me was the next day, which is 9/12, which people remember as the day, a unity. That was when everyone comes together and we're all one, because we had just had this really horrific thing happen in our country. So this day of unity, here come the Yankees, here come the Mets. Bench is clear on this day
Didn't
of
they have
unity.
on 9/11? But on 9/11, they all stood on the same
They did,
baseline,
right.
and it was a
Yes.
city united. The players were wearing, of course, as they've done each year since, they wear fighter logo caps or police caps for the first responders that went in, and they're all together.
Yes, all on one line. It was really nice. It was really moving. And then the next night, Francisco Lindor, now he hit 3 home runs, but he also accused the Yankees dugout of whistling and stealing signs. Giancarlo Stanton hits a home run, and as he's rounding the bases, from what I could tell, and what from other things I saw since then, he didn't stop running. He just kind of slowed down where Lindor was, told him, you need to stop. That whatever you're hearing is not going on, and he keeps going. But by that point, bench is cleared and day of unity is
who
over.
was it who ran over there? Javi Baez.
Right, exactly.
Now, Javi Baez isn't that big. Giancarlo Stanton's 6'6".
He's big.
And could probably throw Javi Baez over the wall from the plate.
Exactly. He's like the little leaguer that he hit the home run off of in the T-Mobile commercial.
Picks up the third baseman and moves him. That's Javi Baez was the third baseman standing his way. But Javi Baez was over there. Hey, come here. And then, of course, Lindor is a follower because he started doing the same thing.
I want to mention this. I started thinking about this. I thought, wait a minute, this is 9/12. This is where you saw the American flags were out everywhere. It seemed like every house had a flag, and it was, we're coming together. And this happens in the game. And I think, was this a good move for the Mets to have Javi Baez? He is such a bad influence on Francisco Lindor.
Honestly, I think that if I'm Steve Cohen and Sandy Alderson and whoever they decide, whatever train wreck they decide to hire, I think they just stand out at the exit gate of the local prison and say, "Yeah, do you know anything about baseball? Yeah, we saw it on the TV here in solitary confinement. You're my new GM." So I think they would be good to let him go. As good of a player as he can be. Sure, he wanted to come there, but he's been nothing but a problem since he got there. And he hasn't been an overwhelming player. They're not necessarily back in the race because of him being there.
Right. They aren't. I think they're, going back to the wild card, I think they're like 4 games. So, 3.
I think 3 games.
Yeah.
They're in the mix, but they lost the East that they at some point was theirs to lose, and they did.
Yep.
There's all these other issues, the booing the crowd and stuff like that. And then to call out, he called out because one of the pitchers that was on the bench was whistling during things, and they were trying. He's like, were they trying to alert that they're tipping pitches? Well, if your pitcher's tipping off his pitches, and they can alert that, they're not whistling because they're watching a monitor.
No.
That's the thing. But yeah, so
and
they're
he later
still in the mix at like 3 games out of the wild card.
Yeah, and later, I think after the game, he said, "I heard what I heard."
But he said he didn't know.
He didn't know. So it's almost, it's the same situation with Javi Baez, and the whole thumbs down. We're going to do this thumbs down. And so Lindor follows. And then Javi Baez, maybe he whispers to Lindor, "Hey, do you hear some whistling?" And then he takes it, Lindor takes it the next step and, points at the dugout and, the whole thing. And that's why I think that Javi Baez, as I like to call him, is a bad influence on Francisco Lindor. He's no good for Lindor. Lindor needs to get his $1 million smile back and play ball and not worry about some pitcher whistling in the dugout.
Boaz needs to do the same, minus the smile part. But when he shuts up and plays, he can be spirited. But when he does stuff that's just playing the game, he'll be better off. I'll make a confession because this is kind of what it's like. I don't know if you were around yet or not when this happened. You may have been very small, but like just after birth kind of thing. But I sent your brother across the street. We lived in Virginia at the time. And I had learned a couple of new words due to the teenagers that lived at one part of the circle and a couple other kids who didn't have any parental guidance, or they did and their parents used a lot of that language. I made him go across the street and call the lady a name. Okay, you figure he's about 4 years old at the time. And he ran over there and called her what I told him to do. And then ran back across the street. Of course, the lady was mad, came screaming across, tells mom. Mom knew exactly what had happened because we didn't have, my child would never do that, parents.
No.
We had, my child probably did do that, parents, and we had to prove ourselves. We were guilty till we proved ourselves innocent.
That's it.
So it wasn't that bad. But anyway, so that's kind of like Boaz and Lindor.
Yes.
Javi tells Francisco to do something, and Francisco does it. Why? Stop.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Just play baseball.
Just stop.
All right. So you had all that happen at the Yankees. Yankees had a tough weekend there as far as playing. What did they lose? 2 of the 3?
Yeah. They just, it was just not good for them.
And that didn't help them in their pursuit of, at one point they were at the top. They had wild card spot number 1. They dropped out of that spot. Boston had moved up, but a team that had been kind of sitting on the back. So you've watched a lot of the Formula One racing or IndyCar, whatever it is. And you see this if you watch NASCAR as well. Somebody will sit back in 3rd or 4th, conserving fuel, just keeping their spot. And when you get to the last point, or a runner, it happens in marathons too. They just find their pace, and then right at the right time, they take off. Well, the team that has completely blown the wild card standings up is the Toronto Blue Jays, a team we've talked about all year, who's dropped down into 4th place. They were in 3rd, they were in 2nd. But they've been pretty consistent when you look at it, regardless of where they're playing. And probably it's better for them now because they're truly back at home in Toronto instead of somewhere in Florida or Buffalo. They, an incredible weekend in Baltimore, but they swept the A's, who were in front of them in the wild card. They swept the Yankees, who were in front of them in the wild card. Then they lost the game to Boston. In fact, I think in their last 4 series, the only team that they've lost to is the Orioles. They lost 1 game in both series. But if you look at what happened, Toronto in Baltimore over the weekend, on Saturday, they had a doubleheader. With one of them was a makeup game. So 2 7-inning games. They scored 11 runs each in both of those games. And then on Sunday, when I think even their manager said, Yeah, after you do something like that, you do maybe score 4 or 5. That's all I thought. They came back and they outscored like a dozen NFL teams,
Yeah,
including
14.
including the Bills.
Yeah,
They
they're
they
they're
said that
they're
in
sister
their
team.
whisper voice because
That's right. It's
but
Buffalo.
the Buffalo Bills, they outscored them, and my favorite, the Titans, didn't even score as many as they
I
did.
will say I'm glad my team lost, but they weren't on the list, so I was happy about that.
Yeah, my team lost thanks to one of your college favorites. Kyler Murray had a great game for the Cardinals.
He did, and my team lost because one of my college favorites threw an interception and ended the game.
And they were ahead for most of it,
Oh, it was
but
awful.
the problem is they were playing State Farm regular
Patrick
character
Mahomes. Yep.
Patrick Mahomes, and Jake
Ah,
from State Farm must have worked some magic for him.
I think they did. But let's get back to baseball.
Anyway, so when we start looking at the Blue Jays scored 22 runs after scoring 22 on Saturday between two games. They scored 22 in one.
One game.
Out of
And
control.
what was interesting is when you're watching that game, I mean, they're just teeing off. It just is nonstop. And then the Orioles start coming back. And you're like, they could only muster 7. They
Yeah.
couldn't, they just
But that's
couldn't
the
do
thing.
it.
They tried him out. It shows you something about what the Orioles can be going on. Cedric Mullins ended up having a pretty decent game. He was helping to, being a driving force. So you've got a change. What Toronto is now, just barely, I think, just a half a game in front of the Red Sox, but they've turned it. It's like a 4 or 5 game turnaround to put them in spot number 1 with the wild card. Boston's number 2. Oakland got swept. Oakland keeps falling. They're still got a chance, and they're going to be playing the Angels, so they could move up. But the Mariners, who swept the A's just within the last couple of weeks, are right there. And if they can pick it up, they've got a shot. And then the Yankees are bound to turn it around,
Yeah, the Yankees are half game back, and then Oakland and Seattle are both 3 games.
So that's the East. In the West, we already talked about the Dodgers have locked up the number 1 wild card. If for some reason they were able to overtake San Francisco would have that wild card spot. So one of those 2 teams is number 1 with the wild cards in the National League. San Diego, Cincinnati are tied, or they go back and forth, half game here, half game there. St. Louis is within a game as well, and then Philly 2.5 games out, and then the Mets fall in behind there. So the Mets and Philly could be fighting for that. But coming up this week, some changes could happen, either good or bad for these teams. The Padres, as we mentioned, are playing the Giants, so that could have an effect on the NL West, but it could also affect the Padres' wild card chances. The Cardinals and the Mets, the Cubs and the Phillies. The Yankees are playing the Orioles, who have upset them before. The Dodgers and the Reds, we already mentioned. The Blue Jays will take on Minnesota, who's aren't as bad as the Orioles, but who knows there if they can keep this up. Later on in the week, the Phils and the Mets will be fighting for that spot and trying to overcome St. Louis, Cincinnati, or San Diego. And then the Padres and the Cards also meet up later in the week, and the Braves and the Giants, 2 of the league leaders. So Braves fans this weekend.
Oh yeah, I can be a Braves fan.
Freddie Freeman, let's go.
And we can root for
Ozzy
Jocelyn.
Albies, let's go. Jocelyn, home run, get a hit. All right. Well, so there is a lot to look at over the last couple of weeks here of the season. We're under 20 games, and it can get crazy, or one team could just now put their pedal to the metal, show no mercy, and beat the snot out of everybody like 22-7. The problem that could happen is that somebody could get injured and end up on the wheel of IL list.
An update for the Will of IL. We've talked about Marcell Ozuna. He has been put on administrative leave, finally, by the MLB. He'd been on the IL with a fractured hand, and then he ran into some domestic violence issues between he and his wife.
Was it fractured hand because of the domestic violence issues?
I know. I think it's because he slid into a second base.
Oh, that's right. It was a baseball injury. It's been so long.
It was a baseball injury, but you forget.
Yeah.
But so as we know with the Trevor Bauer situation, the league has the authority to place players on administrative leave for up to 7 days. MLB Players Association, they have a joint domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse policy. And right now he's on 7-day. Felony charges that were originally brought against Ozuna were dropped in early August, but prosecutors moved forward with a pair of misdemeanor charges. Ozuna has agreed to enter into a 3 to 6 month domestic violence intervention program. And if he successfully completes that program, then those charges would be dropped. So we will not see Marcell Ozuna for a while. But that's the update out of Atlanta. Now we look at the Will of IL, starting in Cincinnati. Jesse Winker, I needed to mention this. He is still out with a strained intercostal.
He's intercoastal with an intercostal.
Yes. And this time in my notes, I put in caps COST. So I would know there's no A.
That's okay. You took the A out last time and still said intercoastal.
I still said it wrong. But he's still on there, still in the IL. For the Rockies, who had not been swept at home until the Giants showed up, they have Connor Joe has a strained hamstring, and Chichi Gonzalez, who is a pitcher, has a strained oblique.
Oblique, oblique, on my side. Oh, my side.
Jesus Aguilar of Miami has knee inflammation. Rowdy Tellis has a strained knee, so no. He gets rowdy in the dugout, even with his strained knee, but he's on the IL. And Chris Paddock has elbow inflammation, so that will definitely put a hit in for San Diego and their pitching rotation. Jake Cronenworth, in Friday's game against the Dodgers, Julio Urias was pitching. He was hit by a pitch and fractured his ring finger. So, but he said it was no big deal. He plays hockey, and this is like the 5th time he's fractured a finger. So, just one of those things.
Not a finger.
Not, yeah. Just, he
fractured a finger.
So, but one of the things, so you're seeing the IL, that go down a little bit. But what we're seeing go up, especially in Boston, is the COVID IL. And The Red Sox have 9 players on the COVID IL, with Chris Sale being the latest addition. They are one of 7 teams in the MLB that are below 85% vaccination rates. I tried to get the other 6 teams, but I could not find them. I think Philadelphia is another one. I think we mentioned that before. So, yeah, they are still supposed to be wearing masks in the dugouts. In the clubhouse, they're supposed to be social distancing. They're supposed to be doing those things. But as you and I were talking about, we noticed that there are some teams. Now, there are a lot of teams that are at 85%, that 85% threshold, meaning the tier 1 coaches, players, trainers, and then tier 2 is the office, the front office, working in the stadium. So there's the 2 tiers. So with the Dodgers, they got to that 85%. So they're probably above 85%, but that was the threshold. The Red Sox have not gotten to that threshold, but we noticed they stopped wearing their mask in the dugout and stopped social distancing and kind of just gave all that up. And now they're seeing
towards the beginning of the season.
Yeah. So, and they're still not at that threshold. So they've got 9. There are 29 total MLB players on the COVID-19 list. 9 of them are from the Red Sox. So yeah, I mean, and 13% of Major League ball players are not vaccinated. So obviously it's a lot. The number is far lower than, nationwide, but it is relatively high when you think about their, the amount of time, the amount of money, all of the things that they spend on, the baseball spends on the health of their players, and you still have, guys that are not vaccinated. So, which, it's a personal choice, but if I was in the clubhouse, I think I'd feel better if I knew that my teammates were vaccinated.
So a lot of guys are coming back now. It seems that happens. They're out for a long time and then they're able to get them back. We were expecting between the Dodgers and the Angels, maybe quite a few players to come back beginning of September, mid-September. And some of those aren't. Some probably shouldn't, as we mentioned. And then a lot of these other teams, if they do have people on the IL, it's people that are either out for the season and aren't expected to come back at all. At this point, they're just trying to get their, especially the teams in the pennant races, trying to get all those folks rosters set and their lineup set going into the playoffs. All-Star game next year is at Dodger Stadium. Was supposed to be the 2020 location, but since there wasn't one there, they let Atlanta keep it for 2021, but they ended up moving it. So why didn't they just move it to LA? Because they'd already told LA they could have 22. So went to the Rockies. Will the Braves ever get another All-Star game? Who knows? Eventually. And then I think you just saw where the 2023 All-Star game is going to be, right?
Yes, Seattle will be hosting the All-Star game in 2023.
At the Kingdom?
At the Kingdom, yes, they're bringing it back. No, the T-Mobile.
I was going to call it Safeco. I forgot that it was T-Mobile Park.
It's now. T-Mobile
and the
now.
reason I went to Kingdom is because Comiskey.
Right, yes. T-Mobile will be hosting if it's T-Mobile in 2023, the All-Star game. And we don't know where it will be in 2024 or 2025, but I can tell you it will be in Philadelphia in 2026.
All right. Before we bail out, we just got off the wire some breaking news and wanted to share it. As we usually always get these in the headlines, but since this one just happened, Norm Macdonald, great comedian, Saturday Night Live alum, pretty funny guy, died at 61. Apparently, he had been battling cancer for the last 9 years and finally succumbed to that. It was announced by his management, and then apparently a friend of his and producing partner Lori Jo Hoekstra was with him when he died, and he said it's been a 9-year battle, and his has been a bigger battle to keep his health struggles private and away from family, friends, and fans. And that'll do it for this week's Sibling Rivalry Baseball podcast.
Remember, you can find us on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com, and on Facebook and Instagram at Sibling Rivalry BB.
We're also on Twitter at Sibling Rivalry BB without the A. Email us, show@siblingrivalrybb.com. We'd love to hear what you think, so subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to our podcast.
Next week on SRBB, MLB's regular season gives its 2 weeks notice.
And we check in on the playoff races like the wild card. Yep. They're playing for playoffs. Uh-oh. It's the wild card.
You're out!